Konene, so the Baringo Cultural Festival imekuwa ikihappen, ilianza saa 2 na ilikuwa inaisha jana. So juu ilikuwa inaisha jana, the guest of honor alikuwa ni Ruto, na ilienda pikiwa a very interesting day. Why? Because every time tunafikiria that history ya Ruto na kuchange presidential terms, it's bullshit. It just keeps coming up. This never came up time ya Uhuru, never came up time ya Kibaki, but it keeps coming up. And I know Ruto, like majuzi alijam na sisi vile alikuwa napatiana like how much Kenya can change in 20 years. Alafu tulikuwa zile za 20 years, what do you mean 20 years? Alafu majuzi akabaki ame dismiss that hii job vile inakuwaga ni stress, akiamka na tukanwa, then how do we expect him to run this thing for 20 years? But shida ni the people around him expect him to run it for 20 years, because this is one of the things that will happen. Uni senator fulani anaitwa Chemitei, and this is what alisema.
Sisi kama watu ya Baringo, unajua Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya ndiye alitoka hapa. Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, the second president, yeye alitoka hapa Baringo, na sisi hatujazoea kupiga kura miaka 5, hatujazoea kupigia kura president miaka 5 ama 10. Sisi tumepiga 20 na kuelekea huko mbele. So your excellency, kwa mapenzi ya Mwenyezi Mungu na wananchi wa Kenya, tutaangalia, tunaona kazi yako ikikamilika, ikifanya mzuri, sisi tunangetaka kukupigia kama Moi, isikue tu miaka 5 ama 20.
Machiki. The last time alibonga juu story ya 20 years, of course tulibagi to my dismiss, but now you have to see there's a pattern. This started with akina Cheragei talking about switching from 5 to 7 years, and then kuna MP fulani kutoka kwa the Northern Frontier akasema the same thing. Alafu afterwards kabaki imeenda kule na Rendra Raval akaisema the first time, alafu akabaki ameisema tena. Alafu Ruto majuzi akaanza kutuambia zile stories za cheki, tunaweza change Kenya in 2 years, itakaje in 5 years, itakaje in 10 years, itakaje in 20 years. Alafu tunasikia vitu kama hizi. So you have to understand why we are worried, because pia Ruto akituambia that Kenya itaturn into a first world in our lifetime, and considering that the next person who comes in might not want to follow what Ruto is saying ama doing, is very suspicious. So I don't know, be the only day nitakubali that Ruto hataki kuchange the constitution is the day that I'll see him aki hand over power to the next person. Otherwise, before that, I'll always treat him as the guy who's just waiting for the opportune moment to try and change the constitution. Is it going to be a good idea? No, it's not going to be a good idea. It does not matter who you are, and it does not matter how great your ideas are. The maximum that anyone can do is 10 years. If you get the 10 years, you're lucky. If you get 5 years, you are lucky. Yes, and this is a once in a lifetime opportunity that very few people get to do, ama very few people get to serve. But apart from that, of course, umsali baki kibonga jia the Mau Summit Road. So wacha tusikie, because hii ni one of the things that he keeps talking about. So wacha tusikize.
Na mimi niliwaambia watu wa Western Kenya, niliona juzi msongamano mkubwa sana katika barabara hiyo ya kutoka Nairobi. Mimi niliwaeleza hiyo msongamano muweke mapicha, tengenezeni picha, kwa sababu that is the last time tutakuwa na msongamano ya mabarabara kwa hiyo barabara ya kutoka Nairobi.
And hii story ya Nini, I remember, I think was it on Monday, nilikuwa na react and nilikuwa nasema that if this guy is able to achieve this, then it's going to be a good thing. Then kachekiwa soko like mwaf bado nakubali lies za umse. When the work is there, it's there. Najua kuna videos zimeonyeshwa za hiyo route. Najua Gachagua alisema that there is nothing happening, but there is actually kuna chimbwa, barabara zinachimbwa. So this is happening, and I'm not in the business of kusema kitu just because mse si popular then nafaa tu come up na kusema vitu si popular juu yake. Akidu some bullshit kama hiyo kutry kuchange constitution, I'll be the first one on the front line. Kukiwa na kitu positive, I'll still be positive, najua, and that's just how it is. That's why show inaitagwa eko nene, because ukikam to eko nene, feelings unachaga kwa mlango, alafu unaingia. Wayo, unaweza sikia kitu itakubamba, ama unaweza sikia kitu itakuudhi. But at the end of the day, the only truth in the world ni Yesu ni Kristo.
Yeye mnanielewa? Muweke ndio itakuwa souvenir siku nyingine, itakuwa inaandikwa kulikuwa na mchongomano ya magari zamani kwa hiyo barabara. Hiyo barabara nimeanzisha juzi kutoka kule Rironi Nimesema kutoka Rironi mpaka Naivasha itakuwa barabara ya leni 8. Leni 4 juu, leni 4 kupitia Maimayu. Ikifika Naivasha tunaweka leni 6 inakuja mpaka Nakuru. Alafu leni 4 inakuja mpaka hapa. Alafu mapema tena mwaka ujao tunaanza kupangia, tayari tuko na pesa ya kufanya visibility study ya kusukuma hiyo barabara sasa kutoka hapa Mau Summit, leni moja iende Kericho, iende Kisumu, ingine ikuje Eldoret, iende Malaba, na tuunganishe hiyo Malaba na Kisumu ili ile dunia yote ikae sawa sawa na iwe dual carriageway.
So yeah, hii ndio dream msiko nayo, and what I can say is I support that dream. Najua this is not about him winning ama him losing. This is about Kenya. And this is not about, oh, that's a lie. Zi, kuna vitu zimekuwa zikihappen. Talanta has been happening. Has it been happening at the right price? No, it's overpriced. That's number one. What else has been happening? Kuna hiyo njia pia iko hapo karibu na Nini na junction. It's happening. I don't know if it's overpriced or not. Najua stories are smart deals zina happen, it's overpriced. So things are happening. Just cause so wasantaka nikuwe like since Gachagua alisema nothing is happening, I'm supposed to be like nothing is happening. No, it doesn't work that way. Things are happening. But kuna hii clip imekuwa ikigo round, na hii clip ilinionyesha vile inakuwa very interesting how kujudge vitu na clips inakuwa ni cause kuna clip fulani imekuwa ikigo round wasoko like zijo Jimi Wanjigi amejoin Ruto. Jimi Wanjigi ashaona ukweli kwa Ruto ndio mambo yote. And nikamwa wacha ni watch hii clip ya Jimi Wanjigi alafu ni try to find where is the source. Wacha tusikize.
I want to ask my president, because he's our president and he did a very good job. Let's give him a clap. He contributed a lot of money for this cathedral. He has started an agenda which is very good. He has brought what is called agenda politics. Agenda politics. Yani, the politics of the issues of each and every one of us. Na anasema, in the future, tutaona first world. Sindio? And those are good dreams. In the future, tutaona Singapore. Very good dreams. The other day, alisema, kuna wengine hata barabara zao kwa kwenda nyumbani, angalia kwa internet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So, nacheki clip. So, hii clip imekuwa shared na a lot of government bloggers, and the government bloggers wanasema vile Jimi Wanjigi saizi asha join gava, asha see the light, Ruto is the light, and what. And of course, nikisikia kitu kama hii, I'm curious. I'm like, how is this happening? Like, this guy had dreams of being the president. Like, what has happened that has made him switch that fast? So, nika end up tu nikiamua like, what if I was to look for more information on this and came across a different clip. So, the same day, umse akisema hivi, alienda pamesema something still that now the bloggers are not sharing. Because you have to understand that politics inakuwaga about agenda. Alafu siku hizi kuna kuwaga na hizi clips. Na clip ikikatwa without any context inaweza kuwa like very interesting, because now people can understand it the way they want to understand it. So yes, so the story imekuwa ni Wanjigi is now praising Ruto. So that was part of the speech. And your speech una notice inakatwa pap. So what else did he say kwa your speech?
You have 598 days left to the general election of 2027. Before you start telling us mambo ya Singapore na sijui first world, simuanushe hii kitu from 7% even to 20%, then you start telling us about another future. Mukamilishe kazi. How can you be at 7% with 600 or so days left? That is a shame. That is a shame. Let us deal with reality. This time, Kenyans are not going to joke. Na watacheza na mtu hapa. We want deliverables. We don't want ndomo.
nacheki. So kile clip kidogo ilikuwa inaonyesha ni kama huyu msana sifu Ruto, but you just extend kidogo tu, you see he was just laying that as the foundation so that he'd say whatever he wanted to say. So the Singapore dream is just one of those things that is going to end up sparking debate, because is it going to happen? I don't know. Would I want it to happen? Yes. As Singapore, is it going to happen? No, that won't happen, najua. But is Kenya going to reach a certain level that maybe it's admirable? Maybe, but I also doubt, and the reason why I doubt is because of the looting. Ingekuwa that these politicians don't have to gain with every contract, with every project, then yes, we can reach that level. But the fact that they have to benefit, like kuna kitu moja ile niko nachanuliwa, and ule mtu alinichanua, this guy always has figures, man. So kama watch iko nini long enough, you know who I'm talking about. And this is the guy that made us understand how overpriced history ya nini ilikuwa, history ya, what is it called, the data center ya gava ya SHA. The guy who made us understand that, you know that guy, aliniambia something very interesting, that the price of power in Kenya, like without corruption and what, it's supposed to be 16 cents per unit, the unit that's used. And normally, instead of this 16 cents, because of corruption and political interests, the price of power ends up at 2 shillings and 10 cents. That's 210. Try to imagine you, 210 cents. So basically, the price of power ends up being over 13 times higher. 13 times. That's ridiculous. Why? Because people are trying to eat. But what happens with that? What happens is a lot of industries zinafikiria kukuja Kenya, but power is too expensive. They're like, we'd rather stay away. And that's how we end up na hii scenario. And mpaka nikauliza msee kwa like zile za, do you think Ruto would change this? He was like, yes, with the stroke of a pen, Ruto can change this. But Ruto still has interests in power. But not ile power tunafikiria ati power ya kuwa rais. He has interests in Kenya power and power generation. And ndio umecheki kuna speech fulani Ruto alitupatia this year, ile ilikuwa, we are going to generate this amount of power, we are going to generate this amount of power. So shida si kugenerate, shida ni power in Kenya is overpriced. Acheki. So that was something that was very interesting to see. But talking of Ruto, of course, Ruto will come into power. This was 2022, and he was one of the most popular. Nakumbuka wase wakiandika pale kwa internet, with God, when God says yes, no one can say no. So wase walikuwa wanatoa hizo. And then nakumbuka around that time, a lot of people didn't notice a lot of things. For example, something that I always say, he did not want Gachagua as his running mate. And the person that he wanted was Kindiki, and that's why just before the elections kulikuwa na ile no Gachagua, no ilikuwa ni no Rigathi, no Ruto, no Rigathi, no Ruto, kulikuwa na hiyo protest. So of course akabaki amelenga like the person that he wanted to be the vice president. And who was that person? Ilikuwa ni ubuda anaitwa nini, buda anaitwa Kindiki. Yeah, wacha ni interrupt show kukuremind kuwa Lemfi inakupatia a chance to win a flight to East Africa, and all you have to do ni send money home na pia refer a friend. Alafu kisha refer a friend, una stand chance ya kuwin a $2,000 flight voucher. Na usisahau jo, kifanya history yote, promo code ni ekonene. Usisahau pia like on your first $50 transaction, unabaki umegeta sign up reward ya $20. So damn, cheki jo hiyo. Na in the process una support ekonene. So usisahau kutumia promo code ekonene. Na cheki. So hiyo unataka hiyo nini like a $2,000 flight voucher. Very simple, vile nimesema. Tumia promo code ekonene, alafu send at least $50, si ndio? Utapata bado hiyo $20 sign up reward. Alafu utajipatia chance ya kushinda hiyo. Na usahau jo, ni festive season. Hii compare kuna shindo inaendelea mpaka lini? Inaendelea between 8th December to January 8th, 2026. So baki umechangamka. Yeah, haraka jo. Si ndio? Yeah? Wacha so turudi kwa show. And majuzi sasa Kindiki ni kama amepata his teeth, najua ameamua kuwa mkali kabisa cause amekuwa kienjoiwa sana na Gachagua anaitwa soprano and what and he decided to fight back. So nilikuwa na cheki story Citizen waliran ya kuonyesha the evolution of Kindiki. Wacha tuicheki.
Until recently, this was unimaginable of Professor Kithure Kindiki. The law professor was never this high-pitched and seldom raised his voice. He was the urban, mild-mannered gentleman of the soft voice. But in the Mbeere North by-election, Deputy Professor Kindiki was not sparing any decibels.
Wewe Goliathi, wewe ni one-term MP. Wewe Goliathi ni one-term MP. Na uachane na mimi. Ukiendelea kunitusi, wewe mzee, wewe nitakuvua nguo. Wewe nitakuweka aibu.
In Mbeere North, Professor Kindiki fought hard and long.
Mbeere North, one thing lazima tuseme, like I was on record saying that I didn't think that akina Kithure stood a chance on this. So this was really surprising to me, the fact that they actually won. Of course, afterwards nilikaa chini na Gloria Uruoba na kabaki dismiss the win. But this is Kenyan politics and a win is a win. Najua inakuwa very easy kusema, oh, this happened. But Kenyans move on super fast. And I feel like Kenyans have moved on from that. Hakuna mtu anataka stories za. Mseko nitwa Karish. Hakuna mtu anataka stories zake. Like Osasha move on. So with that in mind, it means that Kindiki won. Najua.
This was a decisive race with consequential outcomes.
Dawa ya maendeleo no.
Wa madende.
Dawa ya maendeleo no.
Wa mudende.
As the man who replaced the leader on the opposite side of the campaign as deputy president, Kindiki had his own honor on the line. A loss in Mbeere would mean a loss to Rigathi Gachagua, his predecessor. He would not have had the end of it, not after Gachagua berated him so publicly and so repeatedly.
Mimi nilitangazia nyinyi. Tumefungua hoteli ya Kasongo na Soprano na Ruko.
And so Kindiki had to prove he was no soprano. He went a pitch higher.
Fire. Inoma. Ni two times.
Professor Kindiki started off as a Kenyatta Ruto insider during the crimes against humanity cases at the International Criminal Court ICC, where he was defense counsel for accused number 1 William Ruto, whom he now deputizes as deputy president.
Inakuga interesting how like time works, because each time ungeniambia that one day this guy would be president and the other guy behind him who's his lawyer would be vice president, ningekwambia hii ni upumbavu. Like it didn't look like that. Did Ruto look like he'd be president? Yes, of course. Ruto has always been a big politician in Kenya, and if he is deputy president, it means he's a breath away from the presidency. But no one looked at Kindiki as that guy who would end up being deputy president. And as I keep saying, any deputy president is always a breath away from the presidency. So damn, this is interesting, because if this, okay,
since the ICC cases, Professor Kindiki has never been too far from the center of the Kenyatta-Ruto axis, except when Kindiki fell through the cracks as he was removed as Deputy Speaker of Senate.
Mr. Speaker, as they were enjoying, as they were making merry, as the deep state was celebrating, as the system was celebrating, suddenly, and I say suddenly, there is going to be a war in this country. There is going to be a writing on the wall. Many, Tekel and Parisi.
The exit debate saw Professor Kindiki change his tone from soft-spoken to something slightly rougher on the edges. Professor Kindiki remained loyal to the then embattled Deputy President Ruto, deftly applying his legal and technocratic energies to the Ruto cause. As chief agent during the 2022 elections, Professor Kindiki was Ruto's quiet force at the Bomas of Kenya, where the race concluded in a literal scrum.
Nakumbuka hii election ndio tulienda tukipatiwa choir, and I always feel funny na Rayo Jam na mimi nikisema hivyo, but I always feel funny nikiona wase who are so jazzed during this time and were saying this guy was like Ruto was God gifts to Kenya, all of a sudden be like, now let's abandon the constitution and bring chaos. Go like, Buddha jo. Acha kaende. Wacha Kenyans tujuage light. Choices have consequences. So if you choose anyone, you have to always be ready for that person to serve at least 5 years. Najua. Hakuna, this, they can do it in Bangladesh, they can do it. These countries are very different from Kenya. That's number one. You have to understand. And apart from that, most of those countries never recover. Ukiangalia like what happened in Sudan. Sudan ya saa hizi. After shit happened, Sudan haiku recover. What happened in Libya haijai recover. What happened in Muslim Brotherhood ilikuwa wapi? Egypt has never recovered. So yes, hizo vitu zinakuwa very easy to put on paper, but in reality hazikuwagi that easy, and most countries never go back to what they were after kitu kama hiyo. So kichagua, stick na hiyo chaguo. That's why and why is that important? So that the next time mtu anavote anafikiria, is tribe enough? Is my tribal kingpin telling me this is the right person? Is that enough? Or do I need more? And then you make the decision.
Without surprise, Professor Kindiki landed the powerful Interior docket when President Ruto named his cabinet. Interior is traditionally reserved for the most trusted, and Kindiki fitted the bill. At Interior, Kindiki switched his academic suits for the compact jacket and the law books for security briefs.
281.
Then came the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua, and the political heavens opened yet again for Professor Kindiki.
I, Kithure Kindiki.
He wasted no time stamping his authority as deputy president, starting with his immediate rural neighborhood where he adjudged the cabinet secretary out the line.
Unaniambia hapa. Sasa wewe si mbunge tena. Wewe ni waziri. Hiyo mambo umeniambia tunaenda kusukuma na wewe.
Damn, okay. Alafu, one of the things that stand out Joy story ni vile politics inakuwaga interesting, because I think hata jana nikireact kwa stories za Ruto nilibonga juu ile posts Gachagua alikuwa amepost akibonga juu ya Nini, ilikuwa ni happy birthday my friend, happy birthday, and then it ends up being a certain level of enmity, because like right now the amount of hate that Kithure Kindiki and Gachagua have for each other, I'm sure the hate was always there hapo chini ya maji, because Kindiki knew he was supposed to be the deputy in quotes, and Gachagua kabaki ame blackmail Ruto. So I knew of course Kindiki atakuwa amejam, but that time they were looking at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture was the presidency, and as soon as they won it, I think hiyo time ndio ikakuwa like we didn't even want him, akuwa na sisi kwa Hague, so akwende.
But it was in the recent Mbeere North by-election where the final stage of his metamorphosis was revealed. Leading the UDA charm offensive, the professor was unrecognizable. No longer quoting the constitution as he was wont to, he was now throwing political punches.
Rigathi Gachagua nitakuaibisha, wachana na mimi. Omba kura ya Karish, wewe wachana na mimi.
Taking on his predecessors' allies with a brassive village-to-village approach.
Area, bumper to bumper, face to face, man to man, head to head.
From the lecture hall to the political trenches, Kithure Kindiki has traded his chalk for a baton.
As we welcome him to
Brenda Wanga, Citizen.
Damn, okay. So yeah, this is the new Kithure Kindiki, and the funny thing is this is the kind of politics that tunajuaga hapa Kenya too. You know the politics has to be very confrontational, and apart from confrontation you have to be on the ground. That's why unachikigi hata nikibonga jia Maraga na kina Mtata, one of the problems I have with them is hapandagi juu ya gari, lazima upande juu ya gari. You have to do that whole street stuff, and even if it's going through the village, vile hasa alikuwa anafanya door to door, you have to do all that. You can't be beyond that or above that, and the minute that you do that is the minute that people don't take you seriously. So saizi kuna wase upenda kujidanganya, because Kenya kujidanganya inakuwaga like one of those things. So utapata wasomeka pale wakijidanganya wakisema the way in 2027 things are going to be very different, it's out with the old and the new won't be there. Why wouldn't the new be there? Because the new tried, najua, the what are they called, the Moraras of this world, and they were shot down haraka kabisa, waliambiwa kwenda kabisa, tukaambiwa all they want is our money, and they were chased away. And so now we are left with the old. Alafu ikiwa the old, sasa when you have someone like Maraga, yes he's there but he's not ready kupanda juu ya gari na kumake noise. So what happens, that common mwananchi kwa market hata baki amemjua. But Morara had even started doing that. I remember kuna time Morara alikuwa na court case, and he came from the court case, and what did he do? He ended up akipanda juu ya gari na kuaddress wase, na wase walijaa kabisa katikati ya town. I remember seeing that and I was like, damn, this is beautiful, because this guy is playing the game the way it's supposed to be played. Then I don't know what happened, man. In a minute, pop up, akakuwa cancelled. And but yeah, imenikumbusha kuna kitu moja Murara alipost on Monday. Alisema we lost the 2027 elections to William Ruto in 2024 when the youth handed over the fight for good governance to a formerly corrupt opposition that cannot inspire any hope in a Kenyan. We invalidated each other and validated our tribal kingpins as the leaders who should carry our future. Unfortunately, they will not lose anything. They'll make a coalition with Ruto after 2027 and continue to benefit in billions of shillings in tenders. We are fools, not them. And this is very true. Especially your part ile nasema yeah, we invalidated each other. Because that's what happened. Everyone became a sellout from Kasmuel. Kasmuel akabaki amehepa akaenda ODM, which I always say I can't blame him. Before Hepe alikuwa anatukano. Then Murara kabaki ametukano. Mse kama nani anaitwa nani? Kuna uboy anaitwa Osama Otero. There's a reason why Osama Otero are gonna post that just piss people off. It's because it's the same thing that happened with him. Alienda pa kitukano and akakuwa invalidated. And with that, what happens is this so-called cancel culture. You end up alienating everyone. Why? Because you are perfect. And that's what happened with the Kenyan opposition. Ikakuwa like it's perfect. And not the Kenyan opposition, the Kenyan so-called Gen Z movement ilikuwa such a perfect movement where everyone was wrong and everyone was corrupt and everyone was evil. And with that, Morara karushwa inje, Kasmuel karushwa inje. I remember ule dem alikuwaga like siku ya kwanza kabisa when the protests were starting. This was on June 18th. That girl who had gone viral, the one who was saying, Baba stay home, we'll do this. Ule dem sijali try kusema, oh, we need to start a political party. What happened with her? Ye pia kabaki ameambiwa, abaki nyamaza. So what happened? We ended up with what we have right now. And a few people have decided to keep quiet, but others have decided to piss people off. For example, vile nilisema, umsa naitwa Osama Otero. Kumka Osama alienda up amedo the infamous Twitter space. Alafu after that akaambiwa he was not abducted. That's one of the things that started coming out. He had been paid off. He's a sellout. And he's what? Nowadays muchekaga. Kuzira ya, one thing that I respect about him is very thick-skinned. So he decided to start mocking people. Kama on Monday, on Sunday alikuwa amepost, today is our president's birthday. Happy birthday, dad. Then akaeka picha ya William Ruto. And you'll wonder like, why did this guy do that? This is someone that I hated so much. Why? I hate Ruto. Why is he doing this to me? He's not doing that to you. He's reacting to a situation whereby everyone has been called a sellout. Everyone ishasemekana amelipwa. Mimi nasemaga like every day nikiamka ile raha ya Ozempic waga inasema vile nililipwa. Damn, naweza kulipwa jo, lakini bado sijalipwa. But so more understand. So every time nikisikia mtu amelipwa, I just know it's bullshit. Why? Because it's been said about me. So I know Osama hakulipwa. I know anaitwa nani? Morara alikuwa accused of even working for Ruto. I know he does not work for Ruto. And I just know evil. Like, we invalidated each other, and that's why we are here. And that's why 2027 is going to be a very tough fight. Why? course. People have been cancelled left, right and center. So there is no unity. All tumekuwa tukifanya ni kutafuta reasons to disunite. Najua, if there is such a word. And in the process, Ruto on the other side has been looking for ways to unite his base. One of the things that iko ni hiyo road ya Mau, Rironi, whatever, cheki alianzisha the people of Western. Hizo ni kura natafuta. And if he's able to execute that, which it seems he's going to execute that, he's going to earn a very big chunk of votes. Sasa hiyo side ingine tutakuwa tukiambiana umelipwa, alafu tukipatiana very childish dreams kama ile dream nilicheki ya Gaidho. Yani raya mpaka nashindwa like damn, unajua nilikuwa nakaga chini na Gaidho and I used to take him as this intellectual and we'd sit down till kasiku msema that US inaweza sanction Kenya juu ya death ya Jirongo. I was like damn, raya ijui US haijali juu ya Jirongo. Damn, US haikuwa inajali juu ya Gen Z. US haikujali juu ya what happened in TZ. Nini happen? Nakuna. Say all they care about is their self-interest. Ile time uko na msee kama Gaidho anafikiria ati hizi raya zina care about what happens to us. Kama hazi care about what happens to black people in America, now ni their own people. How the hell will they care about what happens to some random NIGGA in Kenya? Especially when that NI was a corrupt mother ekonene.